Hi, my name is Jake Morris. I'm a physician and an ethicist. And in today's video, 10-minute bioethics, in less than 10 minutes, we're going to talk about a divisive bioethics issue. I'll give you the arguments for, the arguments against, the background information, and talk about what I think is a path forward for human flourishing. So come join me. Today, we're going to talk about the topic of assisted suicide or medical aid in dying. In 2025, in Canada, there was a conference this year on euthanasia. More than 300 clinicians attended. And the website of the conference said that those attending would be able to network with other leaders in this new field of healthcare. Some of these leaders had euthanized hundreds of patients. Interesting use of the term leader. Interesting use of the term healthcare. What should we think of this? What do you think of this? So let's start with talking about the background. You hear a lot of terms: medical aid in dying, euthanasia, assisted suicide. What do these mean? Well, medical aid in dying is a blanket term that includes both euthanasia and assisted suicide. In assisted suicide, a clinician writes a lethal prescription for a patient, which a patient then self-administers. In euthanasia, the clinician administers a lethal injection to a patient. Assisted suicide, self-administered by a patient. Euthanasia, administered by a clinician. Medical aid in dying can include both of these terms. And in the United States, only assisted suicide is legal. At the time of this video, in 2025, assisted suicide is legal in 10 states in the United States. But how common is this? In 2023, there were 1,500 patients that died by assisted suicide. So in the grand scheme of things, it's a very small percentage of overall deaths. This is different than in Canada, where euthanasia and assisted suicide are both legal. And in Canada, people vastly choose euthanasia over assisted suicide. In 2023, there were around 15,000 deaths in Canada by euthanasia, meaning that about 1 in 20 of all deaths in Canada were because of euthanasia. Well, what do people think of this? What's the public opinion around this? Well, in 2024, a Gallup poll conducted in America found that about 66% of Americans were in favor of assisted suicide, and about 71% of Americans were in favor of legalizing euthanasia. Another interesting question is, why do patients choose either assisted suicide or euthanasia? Interestingly, the main reasons when they studied this in Oregon, it was not because of fear of pain or suffering, but it was because people were worried about losing enjoyment in activities in life. They were worried about losing their autonomy. They were worried about becoming a burden on their family. And those were the primary reasons, feeling like they would be a burden or lose enjoyment or lose autonomy, that they were in favor of choosing for themselves assisted suicide. So what are the main arguments in favor of legalizing assisted suicide? Well, there are really two main arguments. The first argument is the reduced suffering argument, and it's the argument that legalizing assisted suicide reduces suffering. You have in your mind someone who's suffering in pain at the end of their life from something like cancer, and assisted suicide is the quickest way to end that suffering. That's the first argument. The second argument, the main argument, is that assisted suicide respects patient autonomy, that patients should be able to autonomously choose how to end their own lives. One of the main organizations that advocates for assisted suicide in the United States is called Compassionate Choices. And that really frames the two main arguments for assisted suicide: compassion, this idea of reducing suffering, and choice, the idea of giving patients the choice of how their lives will end. We need to step back and just recognize that both compassion and choice are good things. None of us should argue against that. Being compassionate, relieving suffering, and also respecting individual choice and autonomy. Those are things that make us human, and those are good things. But the question is, at what cost and in what circumstances? Are there other things that we should be thinking about, other nuances related to compassion and choice? I want to talk about some counterarguments. And I want to put into your mind two visions for society. In one vision for society, respect for the sacredness of human life, the dignity of human life, is the most important. And when there's someone who is suffering, we respect that life. We gather around them with love, with palliative care, with medicine to reduce pain, to reduce physical suffering. But we elevate life and we don't allow a choice to end that person's life. That's one vision for society, where life and the dignity of life is elevated above choice. Now think about the second vision for society, where choice is elevated above life. Humanity is still seen as valuable, as important, but choice can be put above human life, and if someone wants to end their own life, they should be able to do so. We elevate choice above life. So which framework is better for the flourishing of a society? Life above choice or choice above human life? Well, I want to argue, and this is the key thing, that embracing assisted suicide actually decreases compassion and decreases autonomy. One of a physician's greatest tools is their compassion. There's a saying, cure sometimes, relieve often, comfort always. The ability to compatir, to suffer with a patient, to show them love and compassion is so integral to what it means to be a physician and so integral to what it means to be a human. I want you to think about this thought experiment for a second. Imagine Mother Teresa, and imagine what you would think about her if she and her sisters had gone around the streets of Calcutta caring for the terminally ill, but that their care for the terminally ill involved administering terminal sedatives, lethal medications to those who are suffering and terminally ill in Calcutta. Had Mother Teresa done this, would we laud her as a paragon of compassion? Would we see her as someone truly beautiful and compassionate? True compassion willingly suffers with those who are hurting. It stoops to the bedside at cost to self, at cost to time. It shows love and compassion to those who are suffering, whereas false compassion merely puts their suffering out of mind or out of sight. It takes more compassion to willingly and lovingly be present with those who are dying than it does to administer assisted suicide or euthanasia. So assisted suicide relies on a distorted view of compassion, but assisted suicide also relies on a distorted view of autonomy. In medical school, we are taught 4 principles of bioethics: non-maleficence, do no harm; beneficence, do good; justice, and autonomy. But we're never taught if there's any order or hierarchy to these principles. I want you to think for a second about the game of baseball. Within the game of baseball, you have lots of rules of what you can do and should do, like beneficence. You have lots of rules about what you cannot do or should not do, like non-maleficence. And then within that framework, there's justice and fair play. Underneath all of that is the autonomy to freely play the game of baseball within that framework of rules that guide the game of baseball. Imagine for a second if autonomy is lifted up above all of those other rules about strikes and stolen bases. You couldn't even have the game of baseball. It wouldn't function. Well, in healthcare, patient autonomy primarily functions in a negative sense, meaning that patients have the right to say no to procedures and interventions that they do not want. But they also have positive autonomy too. If a clinician says, here are 4 reasonable paths for your care, they would all be good paths. The patient has autonomy to exercise, to choose which path to go on. But they don't have the autonomy to demand things from the clinician that are not good for them. If a patient came into the emergency department and said, I want 50 oxycodone for my chronic back pain, I want 50 of an opioid for my chronic back pain, I should not say yes to them out of respect for patient autonomy. It would not be the loving and caring thing to do. The autonomy of assisted suicide is a distorted, grasping, and demanding autonomy that is not in line with human flourishing or the flourishing of the medical profession. And I actually want you to think about this too. There is more autonomy more self-rule required to walk gracefully through illness and suffering and aging and debility than to choose assisted suicide or euthanasia. To affirm life in the midst of suffering recognizes human dignity and respects human dignity more than controlling death ever could. Thank you for your time. I'd be grateful for your comments and feedback. Please subscribe or reach out if you found this video helpful. Have a great day.